Today, I am absolutely privileged to have on my show a man who truly needs no introduction in the world of photography. With a career spanning over 4 decades, I might be wrong, maybe it's 5 now.
Oh, it's five and a half.
He has brilliantly captured the eccentricities of everyday life in his unique style. His work has been displayed in so many exhibitions, he probably stopped counting. His work is part of public collections from the Tate Modern or the Museum of Modern Art. He is truly an icon of British documentary photography. He also is a pillar of the Magnum photo agency, and he has consistently challenged and redefined our perception of social classes, consumer culture, and identity. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time that I say that. I have the one and only Martin Parr joining me today. Martin, welcome.
Hi there. How are you doing? Yeah. Hello, everyone out in Brazil and other countries, right?
Yes, but it will be seen mainly in France, for sure. I have seen in one of your interviews the first picture you ever made of your father on the river, I believe.
Yes.
Also, you have written or participated in more than 100 books.
Yes.
It is a true inspiration for me. And this is the reason why I decided a few years ago, okay, I'm going to do one book every year now. And I'm still on this path, but it's just been 4 years. Anyway.
Right. So you have 4 books?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And
are they any good?
I think that the last 2 are getting better, yes. I believe that. But they are the ones that were seen the least, unfortunately. Anyway, I had a question on this. Could you share with us a personal anecdote, a moment maybe in your childhood or in your life that ignited your obsession with books? Can we say obsession?
Yes, you can say that. I'm happy to admit to that. So I took that picture of my father on the frozen stream in the very cold winter of 1963. And in the 60s, I used to go and visit my grandfather who lived in the north of England. And he was a keen amateur photographer. And he lent me a camera. We loaded it up. We went out shooting, processed the film, made some prints. So when I was about 14 or 15, I decided this is what I was going to do. Yeah, I want to be a photographer. And that's basically what I've ended up doing. So, and the obsessive nature of that is very important. And of course, the book thing came along a bit later. And I've obsessively not only collected books, although my main collection has now gone to the Tate, but of course I've made about 120 of my own books, and I'm still trying to work out how they work, how to make them interesting. So literally today, I'll just get you this. Whoops, hang on a sec. Yeah, so this is the book that we've just done for an exhibition in Malaga called Malaga Express, and you can see the cover. Hardly called it a book really, and inside there's 3 colored zines. One's called Food, one's called People, and one's called, what's the other one called? Leisure. Yeah, so they're all different. They have different pages, different pictures, and they all go together into this quite neat little folder. So I'm always interested in new ideas and experimenting with how to make the production work with the pictures. You get it like that. I like this picture here of this woman. Yeah, all shot in Malaga, or around Malaga, yeah. And this will, of course, be available on the Martin Parr Foundation very soon.
Wonderful.
9 copies.
Sorry, 9 copies?
No, signed copies.
Oh, signed copies. I was a bit surprised.
Let's say 9, and then people have to act very fast.
Yes. Yeah, oh, yeah.
We've only got 9 copies here.
Quickly.
Sell.
Sure.
So if you want one, please act immediately.
Let's imagine you're not a photographer. What other profession would you choose and why?
Yeah, I guess I'd be a dealer. I mean, I love the whole business of buying and selling. You know, we have a shop here, and I buy books for that. I look at the internet. If I see a book that I think is interesting and underpriced, I'll buy it. So yeah, there's a whole sort of part of me which likes the toing and froing of pricing things and buying things and trying to make a profit from that. So that's exciting to me. So I'd be a dealer if I wasn't a photographer.
It's not just getting the collection, it's also selling some of the books.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of books. Even though all the books have gone to the Tate, I went and bought another collection of a dear friend of mine called Chris Killip. And since then, we've built up a duplicate set of images or books about Britain in particular, because that's what the foundation here that I'm running is interested in most of all. And we now have about 5,000 books as opposed to 13. But
Wow.
5,000 books is still quite a lot.
Among your different books, is there a book that you made that you feel has been misunderstood by the public or the critics, maybe both?
I guess The Last Resort is still my most famous book. And although it was initially published in 1886, it's on its 7th or 8th edition now, and it keeps on selling. And that was controversial, so many people didn't like that. And many people did like it. So, if I have to pick one book out, this would be the one.
I didn't know about the controversy of the book. Why is that?
Because, I'm technically a middle-class photographer going along to a working-class resort, taking pictures. Some people said it was cynical exploitation. So you could easily find things to criticize me for doing. The other thing is, you got to remember, because I'm now a famous photographer, people like to knock you, so they'll find... it's just as easy for people to say you don't like me now than to say they do. It's one of the things, if someone gets well known, you get knocked, basically.
It becomes an identity like you chose it. When you did not, you chose this. I mean, you may aspire for fame, but it's not something that you choose.
Photographers who want to be famous, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
it means they're thinking more about their fame rather than the subject and their connection to it.
This book, that is a true inspiration for me. This is one of the first photo books that I bought. It is very cherished for me. I use it as an example in a lot of my teachings. And
thank you.
And your photography is rooted in documentary photography. How do you balance the aesthetics of art or photography in general with the subject that you use, which is, I believe it's raw truth. Is raw truth beautiful?
Well, it's a personal truth. What I'm interested in doing is showing my connection to the subject through the photographs. And all photographers therefore have a unique connection or a relationship with any subject matter. And that uniqueness is the thing that I'm hoping to show and exploit in my images. So I'm not I can't really say these photographs are all, true. I just don't like the word. Because true is associated with, things like humanistic photojournalism. We have to show the truth of the situation. We all know that all photography is interpretation.
But can you say your pictures are beautiful? Does that make any sense?
No, I'm not going to say that particularly. I don't like bragging about my images. I'm English, and we're interested in a bit of self-mocking rather than self-boast. Americans boast, and we tend to be more cynical and more mocking.
Well, this is a perfect transition for my next question. You've been known for being sarcastic, satiric, and or humorous. What is the function of humor in photography? It relates to my previous question, because I believe that what makes people laugh is some sort of reality of their connection to reality, to something that they recognize themselves in what is depicted or what is said. And that is what is funny. It's because it's real and because it connects to something that we might be ashamed of, or that we just realize that it's true. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes, I mean, life is weird, and let's face it, people are very funny. I enjoy meeting people, seeing people, thinking of the cliches that people try and represent. It's like a sort of social casting that I'm interested in doing. I'm looking for people that look interesting in pictures, and then trying to find a juxtaposition within that frame that makes their relationship to the world or to me come through. A bit difficult to explain this, really.
No.
Remember, all the time in my explanations, I'm much better as a photographer than I am with someone on, interview questions. I've just been talking now, and I shouldn't say that.
But I believe that humor is a very good way of doing documentary photography.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right. You know, I mean, most of I'm not doing very serious subjects like wars and famines. There, being humorous wouldn't really be appropriate. But when you're watching people on the beach or watching people at parties, fashion shows, at weddings, whatever, you know, that's when you can have a bit of fun with people. And I believe that's the right thing to do.
Some critics might say that photography can be some form of voyeurism. And you mentioned that about your book, The Last Resort. I have heard you say in a workshop that there are some pictures in this book that you cannot make again. You could not make right now with children who are half naked.
That's right.
How do you approach ethical boundaries right now? How has it evolved from this book? Is it still evolving?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You couldn't really go on a beach and start shooting pictures of kids without getting permission from the parents. Otherwise, you probably would end up in a lot of trouble. But for example, you know, the recent coronation of King Charles III, I was photographing coronation parties, and their kids were playing around, and you know, I'd gone to see the organizers. We were walking around, going to different street parties. The first thing you do is go and meet the organizer of the party, and you ask if you can get permission. And then people are very fine about taking pictures of kids as well. So it depends on the situation and the circumstances, and whether, you know, you've introduced yourself. That, I would say, is an important thing to do. And once you got that consent, then in a sense, you've got a free pass to photograph anyone you like.
It relates also to the evolution of social media and digital photography and the way photography is spread, image is spread. Right now, we're entering an age of generated image, which is blowing my mind on some levels. It opens so much possibility. Do you see a future for documentary photography?
Yeah, I think we still need the individual voice, and you know, the quirks of the very best photographers, the way they see things, I don't think can be duplicated by artificial intelligence. You know, because it's all to do with the images being unexpected and showing you something you didn't know or thought you know. So I'm not too worried by the threat of AI and imagery. I mean, we had that same argument with Photoshop when it first came out 20 years ago. And, you know, the good photographers have survived.
Well said. About photo books, I believe that photography is a minor art in that sense that more and more people know how to take snapshots with the phone, but very, very few people understand what makes a good photograph. And in other arts, I'm sometimes jealous, maybe just of my wife because she's a chef, but I'm jealous of restaurants because people need to eat, and so they can experience good food whenever they go to a restaurant 3 times a day. I mean, music. We all have some moments in our day where we can just plug it in and do something else and hear for some music. And about the visual image, the visual arts, it's so dominated by cinema or by the moving image. Cinema, when we have 2 hours and we were dreamlike situation and we just experience a narrative where we don't have to do anything. And on the phone, now it's vertical videos and it's quick and it's fast. I don't know how to solve that. It's not a question actually. But we don't have this kind of experience in photography except with the photo book, where we can give an experience for an hour and a half, or 2 hours, a narrative, but it's very uncommon. So few people actually share the experience, or you don't go to the movies, or you just watch television. So there is an experience like that is commonly shared for photo books. You're probably the one.
I can't get a word in edgeways here.
I'm sorry.
This may be the longest question I've ever been asked ever in my life. I don't know if it's a question or not, but you did say that first off, I have to disagree with you about photography being a minor art. You know full well that it's not. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a photography, podcast director.
Of
so
course.
I think you're lying basically there, just to try and provoke me. And of course, the photo book is the perfect way of seeing a set of photographs. The photographer has, enough images to sort of make the full statement. He can sequence it. He can make the narrative work. You'll find a designer that he or she likes, and it's the perfect statement. So yeah, I agree with you about that one as well. So I disagree and agree with you on those 2 points.
I mean,
Now, see if your question's a bit shorter.
where I was going with this very long rant is that you're probably one of the people who did the most to promote the photo book and to share your knowledge about it and to promote it, this form of art.
Yeah.
I'm dreaming that it is even more shared. How can we make it growing even faster?
Well, I don't know if we need any more books. What we need is better quality books. Yeah, because, when I go to a book fair and I'm looking around, most of what I see, it doesn't really impress me. I get a lot of books sent here. And again, most of them aren't particularly good. But we need all these bad books in order to understand a good one when you see it. Because to actually get your money out and pay for a book is quite a big, it's quite a big sacrifice. And most of the time, the books we look at, we reject. So we have to be very careful about how to pick the right books. And I guess photographic culture has told us that there are great books from, Robert Frank's Americans, Walker Evans, all these great sort of unknown books. And more recently, of course, we have contemporary books. And Jerry Badger and myself have, as you know, we did our 3 volumes of books.
Of course.
So we've tried there to find hidden books, books that are very different, books that are exciting. And, all the books in our 3 volumes, I think, work as photographic books. So what I want the audience to do is to make better books.
Make better books. Okay, so let's try to define, if it's ever possible, what is a good photo book.
Well, I mean, you have to have a good subject. You have to have a good relationship to that subject. In your exploration of that subject and the connection you have to it, you have to find a new language that can start to express that. That's not an easy thing to accomplish. Most photographers think they're better than they really are. We have to believe in ourselves. We've all got egos. I accept that. But a lot of photographers think they're really good when they're not. Many of the people listening to this will think they're really good when they're not. Hello out there. Does anyone want to admit it? Well, I've done bad books too, let me tell you, because if you do 120, not all of them are going to be great. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So if I could pick half a dozen out of that lot, I'd be quite happy.
There's something that I love to hear you saying. It's about the definition of a good photo book.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to describe before it is seen, but you know it instantly once you view it, once you see it. How is it? Because it's true for photography and it's probably true for photo books.
I mean, that's the magic of photography, That, I guess, is why we still all do it. We have to believe when we get up in the morning and we go out with our camera that we're going to get something that's going to be meaningful. But, most of the time we don't. So, but I sort of know when I'm onto something that might work. So you have a feeling it worked. Yeah, I've just been to a wedding in Italy and I did 1,200 shots, and I've just edited it. I'm down to 160. I'm going to find 5 photographs in there that I think are okay, if I'm lucky.
You would keep 5 out of 200.
Well, I will have to give the people who commission me more than 5 because they're expecting a lot more. But I'm talking about how I would use them for my own purposes after the wedding obligation has been fulfilled.
With your foundation, you're helping photographers. I'm a bit sad, it's mostly British. But why are we obsessed with the narrative in your experience? I believe that the best projects we do for books or any work are the ones that are very personal.
Yeah.
Is it because it's the only way to obsess and to put the work that is needed to get the good pictures?
That's important. It's the subjective viewpoint. It's your viewpoint that's interesting. So you have to have a good subject, but then it's your interpretation of that subject, which is the thing that could be interesting and often isn't interesting. Because we go to an event, we go to something and we think, you can see the energy that's being displayed there, and you take pictures and you think that automatically that energy has been transferred to the images you're taking. But generally speaking, it hasn't. Most of the time we underestimate our ability to capture something. And because the memory of the event that you're photographing and how your enjoyment of that is actually a bigger part, so it can help to deceive you into thinking that you've got something that's really good.
The analysis of a photography for what it is indeed very hard, because we put so much of ourselves in making the pictures. What are your next projects?
I'm just about to do a book about fashion. I do quite a lot of fashion images, so we're doing a book over the fashion pictures over the last 30 years. Most people don't know that I do fashion, so that's quite interesting to have that opportunity to show that particular sort of type of work that I do.
Oh, wonderful. And when is it published?
Next spring. So it's quite a way off, but because it's with Biden, we have to get very organized well beforehand.
If you want to get to 120 books, yes, you probably should get organized to publish at least twice a year. Every 6 months you get a book out.
Well, yeah, it just depends really. Some years there are more than one. It's usually one or two to three, between 1 and 3 a year.
Thank you so much, Martin, for answering all these questions.
No problem. I will always remember you for the length of your questions.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Don't be.
Oh no.
This is what I mean by people being funny.
Yeah, of course. I was very invested in this conversation because I am really honored that you accept. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Cheers then. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Martin. Bye.
Bye bye.